Hey friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. I'm going to be hopefully quickly, talking about my May wrap-up, which is all the books that I read in the month of May. I know this is coming to you a little bit late, but this is the time I've had to film. I actually read quite a few books in May. For some reason, May just kicked off very quick reading and it's been continuing on in June, and I've just zipping through books. But a lot of these books were covered in my Reading Books with Flowers on the Cover vlog, which I will link down below. Go watch that if you haven't, because that is where I will talk about in length a lot of these books. I'm just going to quickly skim over some. So I read a ton of picture books that are all really lovely. The two standout favorites were Threads and Baby Bear Sees Blue. These were really lovely illustration and storytelling I enjoyed. And these are a few of the other ones I read. Again, more thoughts in the vlog, and also I leaf through the books if you like looking at picture books. I read through the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels and I did not care for them at all. I also read a Frederick Bachman, thought it was fine. I read Pollyanna and I really enjoyed. This was a fun little classic find. And then I talked about 3 romances that I read. Funny Story, I liked. Ding ding ding. Ready or Not, did not care about that one. Absolutely was a no for me. And I read Bridgerton, the first book in the series, in honor of the TV show coming out. I didn't really care for this one either. 2 stars. So like I said, all this book covered in detail of what I liked and didn't like in the vlog. But all of this aside, I'm going to talk about the 5 other books that I read after that vlog went up. And since I was on a romance kick, I actually picked up the newest Abby Jimenez as well, just for the summer. This one also landed in the middle for me, just like all the rest of the rom-coms do. I didn't actually really care for the romance. I just thought it was kind of dumb. Like, you two shouldn't be together, and I didn't really like the main character girl. I know that there's so many people why they love this book. It unpacks a lot of family trauma, and the cute fun summer cover is very deceiving. It's not actually all that fun per se, but you know, I enjoyed it. It's your typical rom-com. I'm not really the person that you're gonna go to for romance book recommendations, so just we can move on from there. Out of all the romance I read, Funny Story, that one for some reason totally worked for me. I think there was like 0 miscommunication, and that's why. And I liked the library setting, work setting, and I thought the romance was cute. It was like friends, like friendship to lovers, which was very sweet. So maybe I'm learning some things about myself and my reading taste when it comes to romance books. So there you go. Would recommend the new Emily Henry. Pretty much would say pass on the rest that I read this month. Then I mentioned these next books in that power reading vlog, but I didn't actually finish them. So I wanted to finalize my thoughts. I started reading The Dutch House by Ann Patchett and I finished it. This was like a solid 4-star read. I think this is my second Ann Patchett, and I think she unpacks some really interesting things and she weaves the story really well. It could not work for everyone, and there's a really good chance that this could have not worked for me, but for some reason I was really sucked in. I was just drawn into the sibling dynamics and the family relationships that were unpacked in the story. I really liked the main male narrator and his voice and his storytelling, and of course this was also narrated by Tom Hanks. The audiobook was excellent. So this author definitely unpacks family dynamics in a really great way. I think that is her forte when it comes to her books, and so I feel like you just have to be in the mood for that. I was so pleasantly surprised that I totally enjoyed it. I picked up The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This is the popular sci-fi book of the past couple years and a lot of people's favorite. And I also landed on 3 stars in this one. Sorry guys, I know there's a few of you that absolutely love this one. It unpacks also really interesting things. It makes you think about what you would do in that situation, how a person would respond. The premise of this book is that a bunch of people, every single person in the world, gets a box on their doorstep with a piece of string, and the length of the string determines the length of your life. So people are divided automatically into short string and long stringers, people who will die quickly and live a long life. It really kind of tackles the ideas of discrimination and segregation and class structure. It was interesting. There were definitely things to unpack. I feel like this would make a great book club discussion book, but I also kind of didn't care about a lot of it at the same time, and that's definitely a me problem. And my personal taste, I just was not very compelled. I was like, I want to know more details, like where are these strings coming from, who's dropping them off, and that didn't obviously touch on that because that was not the point of the book. It's a very character focused, tons of perspectives. Totally get why people absolutely love this one. It just worked okay for me. So that was my take. I mean, no one's surprised. I give 3 stars to like every single book. This next one I didn't mention in the flower reading vlog, and I actually didn't quite anticipate picking it up, but then it just worked very serendipitously. I buddy read this with Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia. I actually gifted her copy of this book, and I have this on my shelves and I had to read it, and it is The Keeper of the Bees by Jean Stratton Porter. I usually do a bee themed reading vlog, but for some reason this year I did a flower themed reading vlog instead. But I did read a bee book this spring, which tick the box for me because my goal is to get through my stack of ebooks. But this is a classic, and this follows a young man post-World War I who's a veteran, and he's dealing with both physical wounds as well as soulful wounds. He thinks he only has 6 months left to live, and he goes on this journey to rediscover himself and to heal and to just embrace his new way forward of life. And he happens upon this beekeeper living in, I think, Northern California. Maybe it's like mid-California. And he takes over the job of keeping for the bees and befriending the neighbors. It was very sweet in certain aspects of this book. There was a beautiful and wonderful character of an 11-year-old child that was fantastic, really well written. And I liked his healing. This is a very slow book, and it's just still and calm and has wonderful nature writing. I absolutely love the description of the nature and the bees and the flowers, and all of that was perfect for spring. The big downside to this book was the absolutely random romance that was just thrown in and makes zero sense. Like, no one would behave this way. It's insta-love. There's like literally zero conversation between these two people, and then they get married at the end. So there's that. It was super random, and my buddy reader agreed. This had the bones of an amazing book, for sure. And I think the author can write well, but she just made some really strange choices with this one. But another classic read off the list, check, and another fun ebook also off the list. So that was great. And then I'm gonna end with a bit of a random one. This is a nonfiction book called Ejaculate Responsibly, A Whole New Way to Think About Abortion by Gabrielle Blair. This one was hyped by Heather from Reading with a Vengeance, and I was intrigued. Now this book, I will say, should be retitled. It really doesn't have anything to do with abortion. It has to do with birth control. I will say this is more for a general understanding of like how to talk about birth control from a secular point of view. I feel like if you are in a happy, committed, monogamous relationship and are married and you are okay having children or have had children, this isn't really going to impact you and the way you want to live your life. But this just brings up really interesting arguments and points to have when talking to people about the topic of birth control and abortion and sex outside of those committed monogamous relationships where things like unwanted pregnancy can happen. So this was just a very interesting, almost like essay of different arguments and points that you can have in your tool belt when talking to people about unplanned pregnancy. Anyways, I'm not entirely sure what I'm trying to say, but I'm trying to say is that this was a great read if this topic interests you. Anyways, moving on, those are the books that I read in the month of May. Have you read any of those, or agree or disagree, or have any of those on your radar? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you guys in another video soon. Bye.